Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I have something very exciting that I have been waiting to do, and that is a side-by-side comparison of the all-new 2024 Hyundai Kona versus the slightly larger Hyundai Tucson. So if you guys have been following the channel, then you'll recognize this exact Kona behind me because it is the exact same vehicle I drove just about a month ago here on the channel at the 2023 Mama Fall Fest. Make sure to check those videos out if you're curious about my initial driving impressions, as well as a walk-around tour of this exact vehicle behind me. But make sure to stay tuned and subscribe for future videos because there's certainly a lot more coming. But this video is going to focus on a real-world side-by-side comparison of the all-new Kona versus the larger Tucson, because as we know, this generation Kona gains substantial size both inside and out, and is just overall dimensionally larger than that of the previous generation Kona, which may mean some shoppers that were formerly interested in the Tucson may now cross-shop the Kona just because it is just big enough for their day-to-day needs. They don't necessarily need the extra size that the Tucson provides, although there are going to be some key differences, not only in the powertrain, but also some of the features and options as well, which may want you to go towards the Tucson versus that of the Kona. But there are options that were previously unavailable on the Kona that you had to go to the Tucson to get that you no longer have to. So I think those are just a few of the reasons out of many why buyers may end up cross-shopping these two vehicles behind me. So make sure you guys stay tuned for this video. There's going to be a lot of useful and good information, and heck, I might even throw my quick driving impressions of each of these vehicles in towards the end. And I will link down below the actual side-by-side feature and option differences in packaging between the Kona Limited versus the Tucson Limited, because I did already create a dedicated video for that, and there really aren't too many option and feature differences, but there is enough that some buyers may choose the Tucson over that of the Kona. So once again, the vehicles in front of us on our left is a 2024 Kona Limited finished in Mirage Green with the gray H-Tex interior, and on my right, 2024 Tucson Limited finished in Intense Blue with the black leather interior. Unfortunately, I didn't have access to two of these vehicles in the same trim level with the gray interior or black interior, vice versa, but this still is going to be a very equal comparison video, and hopefully you guys get a lot of information out of it. Now, starting over here with the exterior design of the Kona, this is the first model to debut some of the new design language and elements that Hyundai has been rolling out. This is also going to be found on the upcoming Sonata refresh, and I'm sure models moving forward. But you can see immediately the full LED horizon light, as they like to call it, found on the Limited, which essentially illuminates when the running lights are enabled the entire width of the front end, which is actually very stunning and a unique design. But when the vehicle is on for the normal running lights, you'll find just the outer two portions are illuminated. The headlights on the Kona are pushed all the way to the left and right side respectively, out to the corners, and they are going to be full LED projector headlights with the LED turn signals in the bottom of the housing right there. The gray accent trim, you can see the grille is fairly large on this vehicle, and it does feature the active grille shutters in that upper portion, so that will dynamically adjust depending on how much cooling needs and airflow is needed to the radiators of the vehicle, and then they will shut if there is less airflow needed for better aerodynamics and fuel efficiency. The Limited does feature the 360 camera in the center of that, silver accent trim, front and side and rear parking sensors on the Kona, just like that of the Tucson over there. So this has the more advanced contour parking sensors versions versus that of some of the other Hyundai models in the lineup. But overall, this design language is certainly a love it or hate it type of deal. Much more rounded and bubbly versus the Tucson over there, which has some sharper edges that Hyundai has been known for in their last few generations of vehicles. And you can see over here on the Tucson, the gloss black, or I should say the darkened chrome grille, full LED lighting with projector headlights, just a different location of the running lights and headlights. But of course, this is a very familiar design that has been around for several years now. Both vehicles, like I said, full parking sensors, 360-degree camera system, and just two different generations of design. So you guys have to let me know down in the comment section below which one you guys think looks better or which one you like a little bit better. But I'm actually surprised that the hood lines of these two are actually fairly even. There is a slight difference, I would say, on the Tucson side of things, that the hood sits up just a little bit higher. You can really tell by the mirror caps as we go down the side of the vehicle which one sits up a little bit higher, but the Kona is really not that much smaller than the Tucson, parking them side by side. Now you can see the height difference, like I said, in the mirrors as well as the roof rails up top. Here from the side, you can see both vehicles do have the LED turn signal mirrors, cameras on the bottom for the 360 camera system, and then they're both going to have the Hyundai digital key. This one has digital key 2, this one has digital key 1 for Android only compatible devices. Of course, blind spot detection, heated mirrors, the whole 9 yards. Really not a huge difference in a feature set. But as you can see, coming out back, the design language difference is pretty much going to mimic the front, with the Kona being much more bubbly or rounded, if you will. I'm sure that's not what Hyundai calls it internally. They usually have different design language terms for these vehicles. Now, one difference that they did add for the Kona Limited in specific is the LED rear turn signals. So the only lamp on the outside, which is incandescent or halogen, is the reverse lights at the very bottom of the housing right there. And then the license plate lights are also going to be an incandescent type. But outside of that, the entire exterior of the vehicle does have LED lighting, which is very nice. You have the flat stainless steel badging for the Kona and Hyundai emblem, as well as the H-Track and 1.6T on the sides. Like I mentioned, full parking sensors front and back on both of these two models. And you can see there is less of a difference with the Tucson outside of many of these kind of sharp edges on the lower diffuser or rear bumper, as well as up near the C-pillar trim. But the lighting is going to span across the entire tailgate or width of the vehicle. LED brake lights and running lights with your incandescent turn signals and reverse lights on the corners of the lower of the rear bumper. But yeah, it comes down to personal preference, ultimately which one looks better to you, but there is certainly a noticeable size difference with the Tucson being larger, parking them side by side, and then we can see in terms of the hatch area or the rear end of the vehicles, the Tucson certainly several inches longer than the Kona over there. So yeah, that's just hopefully an exterior design look of these two vehicles side by side. Now let's go ahead and jump onto the interiors of both of these, because that's where some of the major differences lie. So now with the exteriors out of the way, I want to go ahead and jump into the inside, compare each of these two, because there's a big difference when it comes to the all-new Kona and some of the features that it gained, as well as the physical size. So like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this is the gray H-Tex leatherette interior. And immediately starting out with the door panel, you can see the interior is going to be very, very gray, as there's not a lot of two-tone color effects here with this option. So there's going to be some nice soft touch materials. It's kind of hard to distinguish. This is hard touch textured, soft touch insert and soft touch armrest, power windows, mirrors, and locks with automatic front two windows, silver accent door handle pull. There is going to be color selectable ambient interior lighting in the front two door cards, as well as across the passenger side of the dash. This one does have the Bose premium audio system, which actually sounds pretty decent. I'll go ahead and touch on that in a little bit, or in another likes and dislikes video. Power driver's seat with two-way adjustable lumbar. And there's the gray H-Tex interior with the perforations. And then the dashboard does have a little bit of darker gray, including the steering wheel and some of the upper elements. Now here on the inside of the Kona, you're going to find a huge upgrade versus the previous generation. One of the reasons why it may be cross-shopped against the Tucson in general. Now in front of the driver on the SEL Convenience and Higher, you're going to find dual 12.3-inch configurable gauge cluster, as well as the infotainment system. And this is also the first Hyundai model to debut the new UI for both screens. And I would say it's definitely a huge upgrade, and I will have a dedicated video here very shortly going over this in a little bit more detail. But anyways, you have a dark gray leather wrap steering wheel, accent stitching. Safety systems are located here on the left side. It does have highway drive assist, smart cruise control, lane following assist, blind spot detection, the whole 9 yards. Paddle shifters on the back for the 8-speed automatic transmission. That is new for the Kona with the 1.6-liter turbo. Before it had the 7-speed dual clutch, so that is no more, which is a nice upgrade. No Hyundai logo, as you can see here on the steering wheel airbag cover. Instead, you have the 4 dots out of the Ioniq line of vehicles, and I believe this does mean Hyundai in some sort of language, but that certainly cleans up the overall design. And then you have your audio multimedia controls here on the right side. I would prefer the steering wheel controls to be opposite how they are in the Tucson, some of the older Hyundai models, but unfortunately that is not the case. Usual automatic headlights, auto high beam assist. This does not have rain sensing wipers, unfortunately, so just regular wipers. And you can see down below, this is your column mounted gear shift selection, which is an electronic selection, very similar to those Ioniq electric vehicles that I mentioned. Twist to shift both forward and back, with park being on the end and a button, and that helps clean up the center console, which we'll get to here in a second. Power tailgate, electronic parking brake, all the usual stuff there. I'm not going to go over that in too much detail. Cloth insert here on the left side, very similar to the Ioniqs once again. And over here for the infotainment, there is the new UI on this very large touchscreen. It will support wireless CarPlay and Android Auto here with a future update this fall, supposedly. I know they have just started rolling out overseas, but unfortunately this is still wired. As you can see, I do have it hooked up via my Pixel 7 Pro there to the USB-C port. All physical buttons below the screen for your shortcuts and built-in navigation, dual zone automatic climate control, stuff like that. Really appreciate the lack of gloss black plastic here on the interior. That is something that really makes it stand out, and I really thank Hyundai for choosing not to use that material throughout the cabin. Like I said, USB-C charge ports. You can change between charge only and data connection right there. There's a 12-volt outlet cleverly hidden back there. Wireless charging pad and Hyundai digital keypad down below. Heated and ventilated front seats only in the limited trim. You do get heated front seats in some of the lessers with the heated steering wheel. That is going to be two-stage function, which is, again, typically not something you see in this segment. Automatic vehicle hold, parking sensors, pull up your 360 camera system with the augmented reality view, which is actually very high resolution and works very well. Drive mode select with your all-wheel drive lock, so you can send power 50-50 front and rear. You'll notice they did get rid of smart drive mode, so they only have normal, sport, and snow drive modes in this vehicle. And here is the center console, which sits extremely low here inside of the cabin. You have the cup holders that kind of spin out of the way. If you want a larger storage area, of course, you can only have one or both of them open for your drinks or other beverages that you might have stored in there. But I really like how low the center console is, and it gives you a ton of knee room if you are a little bit on the taller side of things. And that storage continues back below the armrest because this is all one open cubby here. Gray headliner, like I've showed in some other videos, auto dimming interior rearview mirror, garage home link, LED overhead lighting, and this is your power shade and power sunroof, slightly oversized versus the smaller ones in some of the other vehicles. I'll go ahead and open it up for you guys. It does raise up and go over the rear roof. But I really do like the design implementation. The fact that it is a power shade makes it feel just a little bit more premium than one would expect in the subcompact space. But yeah, that's a quick look at the front seat. Now I want to go ahead and compare it to the back real quick. So materials are going to fall through from the front. So like I said, soft touch materials here, cup holder, premium audio system. I apologize for the jacket in here, but there's a look at the rear seats. Go ahead and step inside. Give you a quick look at the dashboard. Overhead LED lighting, AC vents out back, 2 USB-C charge ports, 1 map net, cup holders, 60/40 split folding seats, and the seats do recline in this vehicle via these levers, and they don't recline a lot, as you can see right there. Just a few inches or additional degrees of angle, but it is enough to make a difference on longer road trips. And again, really cool feature of the Kona in some of the upper trims. But now that we know the overall, interior of the Kona, let's go ahead and move over to the Tucson. Show you guys what the Tucson Limited has to offer in its fully loaded form. Once again, this is the black leather interior, but you can get a gray option if you would wish. And here on the door panel, immediately the thing that pops out in my mind is it just looks a little bit more premium. So you have soft touch up here, some cloth insert, gloss black, which is tastefully used in the upper portion, with the more gloss black around the windows, which I'm certainly not a fan of, just for scratch, and scuff reasons. Nice, large, padded stitch armrest, which really looks very nice. Power windows, mirrors, and locks. Automatic front 2 windows. You do have the 2-person memory driver's seat, which is something you cannot get in the Kona Limited. Ambient interior lighting down the cup holders as well with the same or very similar Bose premium audio. Same power seat adjustments for the driver's side. Gray accent stitching and piping. And there's the silver trim on the back portions of the seat backs. Again, a nice premium touch. And immediately here in the Tucson, you'll see that this is a more traditional layout for your screens, and they're actually going to be smaller than that of the Kona, believe it or not. So we have dual 10.25-inch screens, which are still very nice, very high resolution, provide a lot of information. But you can see this one is located separated from the infotainment system there in the dashboard, and it is just going to be a smaller size. Has the older design UI themes on both of them. Still very easy to use and very easy to read, but you can see it is a little bit smaller. Leather wrap steering wheel, silver accents with your Hyundai logo in the center. You can see the audio multimedia and smart cruise control with highway drive assist are actually swapped from the side of the steering wheel. This is the method I prefer, but Hyundai has been slowly revising that and switching sides as the new models come out from year to year. Still have paddle shifters for the 8-speed automatic transmission on the back. There's your automatic headlights, auto high beam assist. This does have rain sensing wipers, which is a nice key difference between them. All your same controls here on the left side, including the power lift gate, traction control, stuff like that. And immediately coming over here to the infotainment system, you'll see the slightly smaller screen, like I mentioned, with the old UI, or I guess you could say the current UI, depending on how you look at it, with all the touch-sensitive controls, which I am not a fan of. Just not as easy to use as physical buttons, and that is really why I think the Kona is going to be a nice standout vehicle, especially in that segment. Still have dual zone automatic climate control, heated and ventilated front seats, single stage heated steering wheel, hill descent control. This does not have the augmented reality view for the 360 camera system, so just a little bit of a downgrade in that regard. USB-A ports with your wireless charging and Hyundai digital keypad down below. Still have your all-wheel drive system, drive mode select. This does have sport, normal, smart, and snow drive modes. You'll immediately see the push-button gear selection is still located here in the center console versus the twist type on the column. That could be something that does change in the future, so that will be interesting to see. A lot more gloss black plastic in the middle with your electronic parking brake. This has the older or current Hyundai key fob, which personally I like way better than the new egg or Hyundai logo design that is found on the Kona over there, which we'll go ahead and take a look at as well. Storage inside the center console, all closed off, just a little bit bigger of a space and a padded armrest. Up top, you have a gray headliner, vanity illumination, same auto dimming with HomeLink on the bottom, overhead LED lighting, and then you do have the panoramic sunroof here on the Tucson that you unfortunately cannot get on the Kona. And there is your power shade, which does retract very, very quickly from the backside. So yeah, that's a quick look at the front seat. We'll go ahead and take a look at materials and features out back. Materials do fall through for the most part here on the door panel, except this hard touch portion. Everything else is going to be the same as far as the gloss black and soft touch. You do have heated outboard rear seats that are two-stage in the Tucson. Again, a feature not available in the Kona. There's the seats. They do recline via those levers on the left and right-hand side and recline substantially more than that of the Kona. There's a quick look at the dashboard, if you guys are curious about that. Rear AC vents, 2 USB-A charge ports, map nets on both of the seats. Seats fold down 60-40 split. There's your center armrest with 2 cup holders. You do have ultrasonic rear occupant alert in the Tucson, which is a nice safety feature that detects movement inside the vehicle after it is shut off and alerts you on the Blue Link app, as well as sounding the horn and lights, again, not found on the Kona. So yeah, that's a look at the materials and the features inside of the Tucson. Now I really want to focus the rest of this video on the exact size difference between these two. So I'm gonna go ahead and set my driving position in both, go ahead and set up the tripod and give you my overall impressions in terms of physical space and dimensional differences outside of the paper specs, because as we know, the Tucson is certainly larger on paper, but I think it's actually gonna be a little bit closer than the paper may suggest in the real world. So let's go ahead and do that, start in the front seat of the Kona and then move around the rest of the vehicles. Okay, so starting here in the front driver's seat of the all-new Kona, I've been driving this vehicle for a few days and there's certainly a few standout design elements. Now, the first one I already mentioned is the lower center console, again designed around the EV architecture which this vehicle was first based upon and then kind of retrofitted with the internal combustion engine for certain markets around the world. So that really lends itself to offering additional knee room for taller drivers, specifically, on the right side, because your knee will contact the left side of the door panel around the window switchgear and stuff like that if you are extremely tall or like to spread your legs a little bit wider than the traditional driver. But the seating position is just really, really comfortable. The front seats and the materials that they use are very soft, very plush, very similar to that of the other H-Tex materials throughout the Hyundai lineup over the last several years. I think the seats themselves are extremely supportive and they actually extend out quite far directly behind your knee area. So if you like longer seat cushions on the bottom, I think the Kona certainly offers the support you need for just about every driver out there, which is really nice. You do have the power adjustments, like I said, on some of the upper trim levels. The overall dashboard layout is very similar to some of the other, Ioniq series vehicles, such as the 5 or 6, with the single kind of bezel for the display clusters all under that one flat screen. Cloth section over here, the dashboard is very low, so visibility is extremely good out the front for really any height of driver. If I could actually lower the seat a little bit further, I would, but unfortunately it is all the way down and really not a big deal, kind of to be expected for an SUV like this. Headroom is extremely good as well, with I would say at least 3 or 4 inches of headroom in my driving position, again with the seat all the way down. and I really just haven't had any major complaints with the comfort, driving dynamics, or just driver seating position here in the front seat. I think the materials here in the Limited are very, very nice, like I mentioned. So now the most interesting part of the Kona is going to be jumping out back behind my driving position and seeing how much room I have out there. All right, so stepping here in the back seat of the Kona, this is actually like the second time I've sat back here since I started driving it. Immediately, the seat bottom itself feels like it's raised up a little bit more than the front seats, so a little bit of a stage seating effect, if you will. But legroom, immediately, as you can see, behind my driving position, I have 4 inches at least of legroom. Significant improvement over the previous generation. Headroom with the seat in the more upright position, I have, I would say, about 2 to 3 inches of headroom, so not the most, but very adequate for the size of vehicle. The load floor, or I mean the floor bump for the all-wheel drive system and some of the other components is small, but definitely there, so you might not be super comfortable fitting 3 people across. But like I mentioned in this beginning of this video, the seat does recline, and certainly much more comfortable for those longer road trips where you just want a slightly more relaxed seating position. I'll go ahead and shut the door really quick. Yep, even with the door shut, plenty of legroom around the door handle and the window switchgear. So that is really not an issue either. And really, I can't stress how much of this is an upgrade versus the previous generation Kona, which in the back seat, I would be very cramped, fairly uncomfortable, and maybe have an inch, half an inch between me and my rough driving position for the seat back in front of me. So yeah, huge upgrade. Materials are super soft. Overall room is very good. And really, like I said, for many people out there, this may be enough space if you're single, couple, or just don't need a lot of rear room behind the front seats. You can always fold the seats down and have additional storage capacity behind them. So let's go ahead and continue out back with the trunk space and then quickly hop over to the Tucson. So one of the awesome new features for the Kona segment, power liftgate, standard on the Limited trim. Oh, fantastic feature. And behind the second row seats, even with them in their more upright or relaxed position, as we can see, one of each, there's a good amount of room. Now, the load floor is actually fairly low, a little bit lower than I was expecting. It'll be interesting to see. I think the Tucson might still be just a hair lower of a load floor, but you do have an LED light on the left side. You have your subwoofer for the premium audio system on the right side. This does have the stiff type storage cover, or cargo cover, if you will, and you can stow this right behind the rear seats, as there's dedicated clips on the left and right hand side and little tabs that keep it stowed up. So simply take it out, slide it down the back portion right there until it hooks on those plastic nubs, just like that. And then those retainer clips do keep it kind of tight against the seat back itself and gives you a little bit more height in terms of the cargo area, but it's just a nice way to store it out of the way so it doesn't get damaged. Like I said, if you have larger items, bulky items, anything like that. And then this trim also has the dual level storage floor, so you can move that down. Gives you, I would say, about 2 to 3 inches of additional room. It moves the floor down or up in that amount of room. And then underneath the floor, you do have your temporary spare tire with the roadside toolkit and more storage space around the perimeter of that spare tire. So really, really impressive, the amount of room we have in the back of the Kona. But it'll be interesting to see how it stacks up and compares against that vehicle, the Hyundai Tucson over there. Now, stepping on to the interior of the Hyundai Tucson. Some of my immediate first impressions going from that vehicle to this vehicle is going to be having to do with the center console just being physically higher inside the vehicle, which from an ergonomic standpoint, I say I like it more because you don't have to reach for those buttons a little bit farther down, such as the drive mode select and some of the other items. But from a space and physical standpoint, it certainly does obstruct the knee room or width of the cabin just a little bit. I wouldn't say it's bad, but I could see my knee hitting this hard plastic on the right side of the console if I were driving a certain direction, or just being, you know, a taller type of driver. So I would say that intrudes on space just a little bit. We'll go ahead and shut the door panel. And from the door panel standpoint, I would say that is a non-issue, about the same as the Kona. You do have the soft padding on the Limited and the N-Line on some of the higher trims. It really makes it a non-issue if your knee does bump up against that. But outside of that, you know, the screens are obviously orientated a little bit differently. I don't say there's any preference between one or the other. I think they're both very ergonomic. Hate the touch type buttons, like I already mentioned at the beginning of this video. The dash seems about the same in terms of its height, maybe just a hair higher than that of the Kona. And the overall visibility, I think the seat is all the way down. Yes, it is about the same. No real issues. Headroom, I would say I have about the same, maybe about 3 inches of headroom, so no difference between that. This one does have the panoramic sunroof, and that one does have the single type sunroof. But yeah, really in terms of space, front seats aren't crazy different. Center console is going to be the biggest difference between these two. But now let's go ahead and hop in the back seat and see if I have additional space here in the Tucson over that of the Kona. All right, stepping in the Tucson, immediately the stage seating effect with the rear seats being just a little bit higher feels about the same as the Kona over there, so I would say that's about the same. And yes, I can immediately tell the additional room here inside of the back seats of the Tucson. So I can tell it in terms of footroom down below and legroom. I would say I have at least 2 more inches of legroom behind my rough driving position in the Tucson. Very noticeable, actually. Seating materials, this one is genuine leather versus the H-Tex. I would say maybe just a hair harder than that of the H-Tex. But again, I've said that in some of my other videos where I think the H-Tex is the softest material in terms of a leather that Hyundai has to offer. You do have those nice, gloss black accents if you like them here on the door panel. I'll go ahead and shut the door. Knee room, again, not an issue here in the back, so that's really a non-issue. Now, one thing that is going to be different is the hump in the middle of the floor is smaller here in the Tucson. It's not gone completely, but I would say it's maybe an inch or 2 smaller, so not quite as tall. So if you need to haul 3 people across in the backseat of the Tucson, I would say this is certainly a larger and better vehicle for doing that. In terms of headroom, I would say have about the same 2 to 3 inches of headroom, so that is unchanged. But pulling this lever here on the left side of the seat does allow the seat to recline much further than that of the Kona. So certainly even more comfortable for longer road trips or just relaxing in the back of the Tucson, but really not a big issue as the Kona does have that slight recline feature. Still have all the same amenities. You do get the heated outboard seats in the Tucson Limited, which is an upgrade over the Kona. But yeah, really in terms of features and amenities, not a huge difference. It's just going to be the physical dimensional difference behind my rough driving position and the additional width of the Tucson is really where you notice it over that of the Kona. But again, if you're not using the back seats all that much, then the Kona might actually be adequate. And finally, taking a look at the storage and cargo capacity behind the second row seats of the Tucson. Yes, again, we can see the physical space difference of the Tucson. There looks like to be a substantial difference back here. So I would say as we've gone a little bit farther back in the vehicle, this is where I can tell the biggest difference. And to me, I think the load floor is a little bit lower, but we'll go ahead and pull them side by side again and check that in a minute. You have a halogen or incandescent light on the left side, 12-volt outlet. You can release or fold down these second row seats via these levers on the side, which is not available in the Kona. We have our subwoofer still located on the right side or passenger side of the cargo area. This vehicle still does have the dual level load floor, so you can pull it out, move it down about, I would say about 2 inches tops, and then it'll give you a little bit of additional height if you have the optional accessory cargo cover, which this vehicle actually does not, but there are 2 provisions up here to pull that. And again, it is the retractable type. You can stow that beneath the floor if you would wish. But yeah, there is the temporary spare tire, roadside toolkit underneath there, and then you do have additional storage capacity, much like that of the Kona, although I will say there's just a little bit more room inside of the Tucson. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it as far as the differences. I'll go ahead and grab the cargo floor out of the Kona and put it here in the Tucson, so hopefully that gives you a better idea of just how much space there is behind the second row seats and the overall physical footprint. But in terms of height, length, and width, Tucson is certainly noticeably bigger. Oh yeah. All right, so the Kona load floor is in the back of the Tucson, and I think this is very representative of the additional space I am seeing in addition to the overall height being greater in the Tucson. So you can see there's the load floor. I'll go ahead and push it all the way here to the left side, up against the seat back there, and you can see just between the wheel plastics here, I have, what, 1.5 inches or so, and that's not counting the additional room maybe above the wheel arches there on either side. You have these little bump outs on the left and right, and then in terms of length, that's just the load floor, remember. What is that? Pushing 6 inches of additional length behind that cardboard load floor there, and then of course the additional height up until the glass is less sharp, as you can see over there. If I go ahead and zoom in, once you get past those running lights in the back, it definitely angles a lot harder than here on the Tucson, where as you can see, it's a little bit more gentle and you just have that a little bit of height advantage. So hopefully that gives you an idea. But yeah, this fits in here, not an issue, and certainly much more room in terms of car capacity and second row room in the Tucson than that of the Kona over there. All right, so I think that's pretty much gonna do it for this video. Here I find myself sitting in the Kona, and I have to say, bottom line, this vehicle is an impressive upgrade over the previous generation. Even if it doesn't have the full size of the Tucson, it still offers most of the amenities here in the limited trim that limited has. It has a substantially upgraded interior, like I said, with some of the latest technology from Hyundai, at least for their internal combustion vehicles, with the dual 12 and 3rd inch screens, dual zone automatic climate control, heated and ventilated front seats, the larger power sunroof, the H-Tex leatherette, a Bose premium audio system, which I am actually very satisfied with, and the list really goes on. I mean, it has a ton of amenities for the subcompact space, and this vehicle that I'm sitting in stickers at $34,695, including destination, as it only has carpeted floor mats as the only accessory. So just under $35,000, all-wheel drive, 1.6 liter turbo, with all the features that it has. It's absolutely a deal, and that is for sure. And one other item I do want to touch on before we wrap up this video is the pricing information for both these vehicles. So as we know, $34,695 is the MSRP of this vehicle. That Tucson Limited over there was over $39,000. So there's essentially a $5,000 price difference between a Kona Limited and a Tucson Limited in their gas versions. So at, $5,000, or, pushing, what, 12, 13, 14% of the MSRP difference, that's a lot of money. So will you be willing to sacrifice the space and size for, $5,000 less? I don't know. That's definitely a question I think there's going to be a lot of people out there asking themselves. And personally, as somebody who's single, doesn't need all the extra space of the Tucson, and you're getting the 1.6 liter turbo here in the N-Line and Kona Limiteds, I would personally, choose Kona hands down. I really, don't see all of the size benefit or need all the size of the Tucson. And given the feature amenities that they added for 2024, there's really not a huge difference. Really like the updated infotainment and UI, which I'm sure will be rolling out to other vehicles eventually. But yeah, I mean, personally, I would probably opt for the Kona Limited. But if you're a family, need the additional space of the Tucson, you're still getting a very, very well-equipped, compact SUV, including all-wheel drive and all the features that it has to offer in the Tucson for under $40,000. So again, it's just a question you're gonna have to ask yourself at the end of the day, but personally, I would probably go for Kona. But with all that being said, I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you guys enjoyed it and or found something helpful, make sure to hit that like button below. It greatly helps out the channel in these videos. Subscribe if you guys haven't already, and make sure to stay tuned for additional 2024 Kona content coming over the next several days and several weeks as more trims become available at local dealerships. I want to give a huge thanks to Hyundai for sending out the 2024 Kona, seeing this video for me to create some content for you guys, and also Green Family Hyundai for supplying the Tucson in this video as well. As you guys know, I do a lot of videos here, and I really appreciate them for helping out. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Would you rather have the Kona Limited or Tucson Limited, and why, after seeing the size difference and some of the other aspects of the vehicle? Certainly interested to hear your perspective. I know I've already heard from a few people out there, but make sure you guys let me know down in the comments, because it's definitely an interesting question to ask yourself.